types of depression. And I got to be thinking about this when someone comes in for counseling, because typically what'll happen, or you're ministering to someone in a prison, or you're having a Bible study, or you have a woman over at your house, or you're meeting at Buck's for coffee. No one's going to bring up the fact they're depressed always. They're going to bring up some issue that they're having in their life, or some challenge that's going on, or something their spouse did, or their child did, or there's going to be something. But the underlying manifestation of that thing oftentimes is depression. And it's okay for us to know about it, because we want to love people where they're at and help them. Well, the first form of depression is called major depression. Now, of all those symptoms that I mentioned, agitation, isolation, change in sleep, appetite, frustration, isolation, suicidal ideation, quitting, all of those symptoms that I said were characteristic of depression, if you had 5 of those, it would be deemed to be major depression. 5 of those lasting a duration of 2 weeks or more, okay? So I'm not reading your mail tonight. Maybe you're dealing with some of those things. I'm trying to help you, give you an indication that maybe you need to look a little bit further as to what's going on here, okay? Let's be aware, let's think, right? So major depression would have 5 of those symptoms at least. Now, 3 to 5% of people are going to have major depression in their life. 3 to 5%. And there's a 17% likelihood that you're going to have a bout of major depression in the United States of America sometime in your lifetime. 17%. Now, maybe people of faith are less. Maybe that's the case. Maybe there's some variables there, but I'm just giving you broad strokes here. All right, that's major depression. The second form of depression is called SAD, S-A-D, seasonal affect disorder. Now, many of us here in the mountain, if you're watching online or you're watching via DVD or something or on the computer, we live in the mountains. And in the mountains, we have rain, we have cold weather, we have stark, bleak mountainsides, we have desolate trees, we have cold, blistery evenings. We have seasonal affect disorder in the mountains of North Carolina. Tacoma, Washington used to be the highest suicide rate in the country. Seattle area, the Pacific Northwest. Large amounts of rain, depressing, dark, ominous, depressing weather. Well, it's actually become a diagnosis, seasonal affect disorder, for which the treatment for that, believe it or not, is to get on a plane and go to Miami, or to get some sunlight, to get some vitamin D, to get some exercise, to get some dopamine going, to get some adrenaline going in your body physiologically, to get out literally light treatment. I kid you not, that's the treatment for seasonal affect disorder. So you have major depression, seasonal affect disorder, and then bipolar. Now this word gets thrown around a lot. 2.6% of the population suffers from bipolar depression. Bipolar depression is nothing more than what used to be called manic depressive, same thing. Incredible bouts of manic, hyper, high energy, joyous, euphoric kind of behavior, followed by digressing into the depths of hell. I mean, the more drastic the bipolar, the more swing between the up and the down. The hyperactivity, the hyper thought life, the anxiousness, all the way down to the depths of darkness. That's bipolar, 2.6% of the population. Psychotic depression is an extreme form of major depression where you actually have a psychotic break and you start to have delusions or even hallucinations apart from reality. This happens to 6% of the people that have major depression. Now, ladies, there are a number, well, about, let's see, 6% of females have something called premenstrual dysphoric syndrome or disorder, PMDD, and this is an extreme shift in a woman's menstruation period, and where there's a lot of depression, there's a lot of anxiety that really is a physiological reality that a lot of people don't even know they're dealing with, or your spouse is dealing with, or your child is dealing with. You need to know what you're dealing with. This is what I'm trying to tell you. That is a very, very real thing to some women. And I think this is in part why women are 1.5 to 3 times more likely to deal with depression for this reason. And the other one is postpartum depression, which 10 to 15% of women experience after childbirth. So that ups the frequency of depression among females. And the other is atypical or situational depression, where some of us are going to go through this depressed, sad, empty, almost hopeless period of time, usually centered around a situational, environmental type situation, okay? It's lasting as long as the circumstance is horrible. We have some people in our church dealing with this right now. They're going through a horrific situational, environmental, unavoidable nightmare. And it's just real, and the depression that goes with it is to be expected. I mean, we've got some people that are dealing with that right here in our church, and this is why prayer becomes so important. Incidentally, I referenced this Sunday, a study was done on people with depression, and they've taken all the surveys and all the questionnaires, and they're ascertained that they are definitely depressed. Half of that group was prayed for once a week for 6 weeks. The other half was not. After the study was over, though the chemical makeup of both groups remained the same, those that received prayer retook the assessment, retook the surveys, and dramatically had an increased level of optimism, joy, purpose, activity, and regularity emotionally. So scientifically proven that prayer affects depression. And it lasted a month after the 6 months of prayer, or 6 weeks of prayer. So this is notable. Now, in a ministry, there are people that are always, if you got to think like a pastor here for a minute, there are people that are always asking for prayer for various illnesses, right? Various sicknesses, diseases. What we don't think about oftentimes is, okay, let's pray for that person's healing from cancer, for instance. But 25% of the people with cancer have depression layered on top of that. 50% of those who deal with PTSD, as if PTSD isn't enough, 50% of those people have to deal with depression on top of that, okay? So PTSD, 50%, cancer, 25%. Those who are going through addictions, which is the big thing on the mountain right now, people dealing with addictions, 27% of the people that are dealing with recovery from addiction have on top of that depression, okay? So when we're praying for people, in light of the study we just had, when you're praying for people, realize that it's not just face value what those people are dealing with. They're dealing with, oftentimes, statistically, depression on top of those issues. Parkinson's, we have some Parkinson's in our congregation. 50% of the people dealing with Parkinson's suffer from depression. Okay, this is getting depressing, isn't it? Eating disorders, this will blow your mind. Eating disorders, 50 to 75% of the time, people with eating disorders, on top of it, depression. So think about that. Lack of desire, suicidal ideation, hopelessness, emptiness, purposelessness, agitation, frustration, eating disorder. It's like when it rains, it pours. And this is important for us to be aware of. Those who have heart attacks, heart disease, 33, we have this in our church, 33% of the time, depression on top of heart disease, heart attacks. So I'm trying to help you to see that the way out of depression is an important topic, because a lot of people are dealing with it. And they're dealing with it because they're dealing with something else that is often associated with it. So what do the people of faith do? What's our next question?